The rapper Pooh Shiesty made a huge impact this year, but sadly, getting involved in 2 court cases where he was caught on film using firearms has now put him in prison. Here's how long Pooh Shiesty will be sentenced to prison and what exactly he did. Let's get straight into it. So first off, let me share the 10-20 life rule that they have out in Florida. Now, this means that you will be put into prison for 10 years if you pull out a firearm without a license. 20 years in prison if you pull out a firearm and use it towards someone without defending yourself. And then you will be sentenced to 25 years to life in prison if you pull out a firearm, use it towards someone, and that person is then affected by it. Now, Shiesty, he was caught by witnesses using a firearm towards someone, and then was also caught on surveillance footage in a completely other case using it towards 2 people during a robbery. Now, more detail about this is on May 30th at the King of Diamond Club in Miami. Memphis rapper Pooh Shiesty, he was out performing for a crowd. During the performance, Shiesty was actually seen having $40,000 of cash sitting in his skinny jeans pockets. Now, according to the official arrest warrant from the courtroom, Shiesty was performing at the club when somebody in the crowd was knocking at the stack of cash and ended up getting it out of his back pocket. The stack of $40,000 ended up going and plopping onto the floor and going everywhere. The entire crowd got very, very excited that a bunch of cash just fell right onto them, and they were all scrambling to get it and starting to sprint out of the club. Now, Shiesty, he got very angry about this situation. That's when Shiesty was seen on film hopping onto the floor with the entire crowd, trying to grab at his money and having altercations with people in the crowd until it was too late. Pooh Shiesty then hopped back onto the stage to kind of get an overview of the crowd to see if he can find the people that stole his cash. It's been said that Shiesty ended up getting a good eye on someone holding a majority of his cash, so he was very angry in that situation obviously, and was seen maybe grabbing at his waistband where his firearm was located. Now, that's when a security guard that works at the club ended up putting his hand on Shiesty's hand, then was seen nodding his head back and forth at Shiesty, basically telling him, "You do not want to do this right now." That's when Shiesty got really upset. He ended up walking off of the stage and was seen actually taking the firearm out of his waistband, for sure this time while exiting the club and not being near that security guard. A witness who was outside of the club at the time, who I'm assuming grabbed some of Shiesty's money and ran outside of the building, ended up watching Shiesty leave the club and then watched Shiesty pull the firearm out of his waistband and then ended up using it towards one of the security guards that worked out of the club. After using the firearm towards the security guard, Shiesty was seen then handing it over to another person who is probably his friend, but they ended up dashing the scene. He was actually never found again after that, neither with the firearm. And that's when the famous rap lawyer ended up speaking about the situation, and that's when he also spoke about the 10-20 life rule that we spoke about earlier in this video, as Shiesty was seen pulling out a firearm, using it towards someone, and them being affected by it, which by that rule, he is now looking at 25 to life in prison just for this case alone. But this isn't where it ends for Shiesty either, as a few months ago the more concerning case actually happened, as it's now officially been solved just a couple of weeks ago. Now, the most concerning case is where it starts with Shiesty meeting 2 individuals inside of a parking lot. Shiesty arrives driving a very bright green McLaren sports car, as well as Shiesty's friend pulling up as well. When Shiesty and his boy arrived, they ended up hopping out of their cars to meet the 2 men. These 2 men were actually huge fans of Shiesty, and they were supposed to be selling Shiesty some very high-end sneakers as well as narcotics. Shiesty ended up letting the two fans sit in his all-green McLaren, get to check out some of his chains and jewelry and things in that nature, but it all went downhill when the two men ended up showing the sneakers and narcotics to Shiesty for him to kind of evaluate and buy them, and Shiesty then pulls out a firearm, says, "I'm not paying for this is a robbery," and then pulls it out, starts using it towards the two men. He ends up hitting one in the hip and the other one in the backside. And that's when Shiesty was seen on surveillance footage popping back into his all-green McLaren with all of the goods, but while trying to rush and grab the sneakers and narcotics to make a getaway, a Louis Vuitton bag falls out of his green McLaren as he was trying to escape really fast, and well, you're not about to believe what happens next. Now, in this Louis Vuitton duffel bag that ended up falling onto the ground, law enforcement ended up coming to the scene just minutes after it happened, and they ended up scooping the bag. Now, in this Louis Vuitton bag, there was $40,912 cash, and well, you know, on Instagram, you ever see Shiesty do the money thing where he stretches a stack of money across his arm? Well, the law enforcement ended up downloading those photos off of his official Instagram page and was able to match the serial numbers on the bills of his Instagram photo with one of the bills that were inside of the Louis Vuitton bag, which then proves that it was Pooh Shiesty who robbed these men and used a firearm towards them. Now, I know, I couldn't believe it either when it first ended up coming out of the courtroom, but you also gotta remember, Pooh Shiesty ended up also flexing the exact same all-green McLaren on Instagram the exact day it happened. Now, an Instagram photo will actually be getting used against him in court, which is very severe evidence, as everybody knows that photo and video evidence is really hard to beat in court. Now, Shiesty, he will be getting hit with federal charges of conspiracy to possess firearms with an act of robbery, as well as using the firearm. It has been said that Shiesty will be facing a maximum of 20 years in prison for each of the conspiracy to possess firearms during the robbery. Now, when you add both of those court cases together, he's going to be in prison probably the rest of his life if he ends up not beating these cases. The one really good thing that Shiesty has on his side is that he will be getting backed by lawyers that Gucci Mane will be hiring for him. Gucci Mane actually signed Shiesty to his label and is definitely one of his biggest, if not his biggest, rap artist on his label, so Gucci will be doing anything humanly possible to keep Shiesty out of prison, but I don't think it will be enough, as the first case had witnesses and the second case has surveillance footage. Let me know what you guys think. It has been District Trending, and I'm out. Peace.